You're on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Global Women Talk. And today we are going to be talking about the effects on the world with cancel culture and what it has become. Because I think that it started a certain way, but I think it has really exploded into something that is really uncontrollable, perhaps. So I can't wait to hear the views. I have with me here, my name is Susan Hum, the Love Hacker, and all things truth from my point. And I think we're ready to talk truth on this point. And we have Mary Pagano, angel investor, and everything girl power. And we have Alexia Maloki, a Hollywood producer, and everything that has to do with show business. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
So why don't we
Oh,
dive into cancel culture and what our weigh-in is in terms of our experience and what we see in social media in the world of public eye. Why don't we start with Alexia?
what?
Ooh, awesome. Hey, real quick question, because some people might not understand. What does
Oh,
cancel culture mean to you? Like, what does that definition mean?
Yes.
ooh, okay.
I got to take a drink on that one.
Oh, she needs a break. It's 1 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, first of all, cancel culture, and I'll say how I define it, but I've seen it affect the two areas that it's really predominantly affecting for me, from what I've observed, have been the entertainment industry and politics. This have been like the two driving forces where we are getting turning on the news and there's always something. So I think cancel culture is where all of a sudden, from speaking up against injustices in the world, whether it's diversity issues, women's rights, anything that has to do with, speaking up about something that maybe hasn't been discussed or been shoved under the rug for a long time. All of a sudden, instead of dealing with it, we're just going to go and say, hey, let's just cancel it. So instead of going, somebody is racist, instead of going, let's just bring a conversation with people about what it's like to be different races or what it's like not to get the right kind of employment. Instead of having a discussion about it, it's like finger pointing. Oh, you are this, therefore we're going to ostracize you from society. We're going to put you into the unfit island instead of survivor island, and we're going to segregate you because you're just a bad seed. And this is how I interpret cancel culture. Can't wait to hear what you ladies have got to say, but that's that. Canceling, not discussing, just canceling people and issues, thinking that by canceling them, that means they're being woke and we're aware and we're resolving them, when we're truly not. We're creating more discord between us and we are shutting down the opportunities for dialogue. So that's me getting off my soapbox right now.
Ooh, I love that definition. What about you, Susan? Do you feel this? Do you feel the same way? I thought that was brilliant.
Yes, yes, totally. I totally agree with Alexia. She explained it beautifully. I'm just going to add another element to the cancel culture is that we've gone from the spiritual compassion to judgment again. And that's what's happening. The cancel culture is whatever you there's it's creating opposition, you know, and that's what is creating the conflicts out there. But aren't we supposed to be finding a solution for conflict rather than creating conflict? Because that's what cancel culture is all about. It's like, well, what you say is wrong, and so therefore we're going to judge you that you are wrong. Never mind the fact that whatever we're wrong about, there's a story behind it. We're not allowing the stories to come out. And as women, particularly me and the Steel Rose movement, we need to create safe spaces for us to just express our misunderstandings, right? Like give
Yeah.
somebody the benefit of the doubt that they are just expressing their truth. And when we express our truth in a sacred space, then it's time for us to hold each other with love so that we can guide each other back to an understanding.
Right.
But cancel is like, you're ousted now, you're an enemy, you just made a bad mistake in saying something. So therefore you are, like that's what cancel culture has become. I don't know if that's what it was intended, but that's what it is now. And people are now not even speaking our truth. And I won't even talk about that at this very second, what that creates in society, which we will dive into that after. But Mary, your take now. Add to
Well,
that.
you know what? You guys are both brilliant. And I got to tell you, I've been, questioning what really is cancel culture. And I hear it all the time. And I'm like, okay, so what exactly does that mean? And I mean, at one point I was thinking, like with all the statues, remember when they taken all the statues down in the US? And, and so for me, I thought, well, you know what, if a statue is up and it really represents slavery and oppression, and I can understand the people that are in that situation would want to have that down, right? But I guess I looked at it from a perspective of, well, everything about history, there's good and bad all over the place. And so by getting rid of it, does that really say that you've cleared it up and it's gone? Not really. And I think I look at it from like, just put up more statues that are more positive for the new world, right? So, you can always look at that statue and say, that's how we used to be, and we don't necessarily want to go there. But by taking it away, I don't think it's solved the issue. It's like throwing it under the rug like it never happened. And it did happen. I mean, I think as human beings, we're evolving, and I can't for the life of me understand how people can behave so badly to other people, regardless of race, religion, whatever it might be, because we're all human beings and we've got this unique DNA that makes us special. And so just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean that I like you or don't like you, right? And we all have our thoughts and opinions. And so, I guess, I mean, that was kind of my vision of what cancel culture was, right? So I don't know.
And have
My-
you noticed, ladies, that it's predominantly a US thing? Because what I've observed, and because it's global women talk, right? And I love what you said, Mary, because, I'm Italian, right? So to see people asking to tear down the statues of Christopher Columbus, which is a pride as an Italian, as somebody who has discovered the Americas, and
Right,
taking him down because of this, because of what is
right.
happening. I mean, there has been a huge insensitivity, for example, towards all the Italian immigrants who came into this country, who worked and with blood, sweat, and tears, an honest living to
Yeah,
come and get a second chance in America. And all of a sudden, somebody who is considered a staple of their culture is being taken down. So, speaking of the global, and I've had conversation with Italian friends, and they're like, what the hell is America thinking? Like this is something, I don't know, Susan, if you've seen it overseas. I haven't seen any such thing of cancel culture, or at least at this level, only in the United States, which is interesting to me.
I think in the UK, there's a certain element.
Yeah,
It's too bad
yeah.
Renee's not here to talk about that because in the UK, there's a certain element of it, but in Asia, nah. I mean, well, first of all, I think people are very much focused on goals and achieving something and surviving and making something of themselves. So they're not concerned about, what somebody else does as much as they just want to mimic. But at the same time, there's a downfall to that too, right? There's a certain level of community responsibility that needs to be like existing, but it's too much when you put your nose in other people's business and you don't focus on your own. That's the only time that I have an issue where you're too focused about what everybody else is doing, but you yourself is not even being a great role model out there. So that's where cancel culture becomes another distraction to what you need to do for your own growth and for your own well-being, right? So I don't know. That's in Asia, I don't. That's cancel culture is not part of the agenda.
That's interesting. Well, I do feel that America's in a really interesting space right now that I don't agree with. And I do know that we had slavery, right? I do recognize that we treated a lot of races and religions. I mean, we are a racist country. I will admit that. I've seen it. my grandfather came over from Italy, Alexis. So I understand. I mean, they struggled right away to learn how to speak English. They wanted to fit in. They wanted to be part of America. And they dealt with some, prejudices, nothing like the blacks did in America, which was horrible. I saw some things that was just like, how did this happen? How did we get here? And so I do believe that that we need to have more dialogue about it, that we do need to heal, because there's a lot of people, they've been carrying this anger and for a long time, and we need to help. I mean, we need to, this whole voting thing that's been going on. It's like, really? I mean, I feel like we're stepping back to the 1960s. And I don't know if that's cancel culture considered, changing these voting laws and stuff like that. But I find it, abhorring, just
Yeah.
on so many levels.
Well, one of the laws of the universe is law of contrast, right?
Contrast.
Yes, contrast. You don't know good until you know bad. You don't know happiness until you know sad.
Yep.
You don't have light until you have dark.
Yep.
And so therefore, by canceling out the past and canceling history is the most ridiculous thing. Never mind, are we canceling now?
Right.
But what, you're trying to delete history? It's there for us to learn.
Right. Right.
And it's the same thing as a lot of people I see out there. I work with a lot of people with this, is that they are trying to cancel out their past, right?
Yeah.
You can't.
Right.
Your past is there for you to learn so you don't repeat.
Right. Right. And it's also a little bit of who you are. I mean, it's brought you tools. It's given you experience. It's like, okay, I put my hand on that hot stove, didn't quite work out. So I'm not going to do that one anymore. Right. But so from that perspective, I don't, we all need to move forward, and we all need to work together, and we all need to get along. And the thing is that, just because I have blonde hair doesn't mean you need to have blonde hair, right? Just because I love ice cream doesn't mean that you need to love ice cream. So, but we have to appreciate, the great things in all the people that are around us. And sometimes people do bad things, but that doesn't make them a bad person. And I think people need to stop this judgment thing. If you don't want to be judged, then don't judge others, right? And so allow them to be themselves, allow everyone to be themselves, and embrace them for the greatness that they are. And sometimes if they do a bad thing, it doesn't hurt to speak up about it and say, it's more of, I remember this counselor gave us great advice one time, and turn it to the I message, right? So this is how it affects me when you do that. And if you care about me, then you wouldn't do that again. But that doesn't mean I'm making you a bad person or you're evil because you did this or that or the other. And I think we need to have more tolerance and patience and understanding. And, like, everybody needs to wake up and realize that we're all on planet Earth, and we all, we need to live and survive and take care of each other. It's no more my country, my town. We're global. We asked for this, right? So that's just my opinion on this. So hi, Charu, how are you?
Everybody, hi Mary, hi
Sure,
Michelle.
you just came in just in time. I was speaking on behalf of Asia, but I live in Canada, so I can't. So therefore, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
So, yes.
Alexia, what do you have to say about that? Because it's true, because what you just said, Mary, it's very important that we can't cancel. We need to educate on what is the truth, right? We have to educate. And I think we're removing ourselves from the responsibility of educating. And everything is there for us to learn. Mistakes and failure is there for us to learn. If we remove all that, then what are we learning? What is the difference? Alexia, here's a good one for you. What is the difference between, the past where it's like white supremacy versus cancel culture, where you're canceling out what is different from you, right?
Yeah.
Or what is different from what you believe? What is the difference in principle?
I think that we are whenever, I think it's a little bit of hypocrisy because here we are talking about America as a place where people can be individuals, and it's a land where individuality has reigned for so long, which is why so many people have emerged doing great things, whether it's innovators, inventors, artists, financiers, anybody. There are people who stepped out of the herd and went into an individualism in a positive way to create change. And I feel that we are returning into this herd community, but in a negative way, where everything is being bunched together. So just like we were talking of the cancel culture, well, if you voted for Trump, then that means you are a white supremacist. If you voted for Biden, that means you are a full-on socialist liberal. They're going into all extremes where they're
Green.
not thinking, wait a minute, maybe I'm a Republican because I am about capitalism and about certain things, but I still have values. I still believe in family. And the same thing if you're being a Democrat. I'm a Democrat because I believe people deserve a share. So there is this herd community going on in this cancel culture where it's like, everything is being bunched up together into one thing. Oh, all Italians, Columbus was a racist back then because he took the slave, and therefore, or, Disney, oh my gosh, Snow White got kissed by the prince without her consent. Let's eliminate the kiss. I mean, the message was about true love. A true love's kiss is going to wake you up. And they're turning it into a Me Too, went to a Me Too thing, like you then said. He kissed her without her consent. People, she was asleep. I mean,
Yeah.
she was sleeping because she was like, oh, let me take a nap. She had gotten the rotten apple and she was on the sleep that she would not wake up. He actually saved her ass. But no, we had to say that it was non-consensual. So let's eliminate one of the most important moments in Disney. So what does that say? It's herd community versus individualism. And I think that's the difference between what you're saying about being racist or judging women or being anything. This is actually herdism. Herdism, is that a word?
I like
Yeah,
that.
but we should make it that. We should
Herdism.
make that a word.
And
But I
it's
do think,
worse.
when you start judging people, and I will admit I have done this, and to some extent it's because I've been in sales for so long, and you've got to get to a point where you can make decisions real quick. So, I'm immediately judging somebody very quick, like, do they really have the money to do this? Do they really have the decision ability to be able to do this? And so, you pick up these little things and you don't even realize you do it when you say, so what do you do for a living? So where do you live? You're immediately trying to put people in a box, and I get so upset with myself when I find myself doing that. But it's like an old habit, and so it's about just really being in the now with people and having a conversation and getting to know someone without any box doing, without any judgment, right? Because we all have a past, all of us. Some of us we loved and some of it we didn't. And just like all the worlds, right? I mean, all the countries. I mean, look at Germany and with the Nazism that happened in the past. You think they'd like to cancel that? I'm sure they would, but that's such important history that you can't forget about it, right?
Actually, Mary, you brought up a really good show for the next one, because how to sell with heart, that can be our next one. Like, oh my goodness, that's a huge one.
Very
And
big.
this is important for networking people that are super connectors. That's a whole great conversation. Thank you for bringing that up. Because definitely there's an element of profiling that is needed, but only if you're trying to stay within the guardrails of your time and the value of your time. But it's not to judge a person, it's to keep yourself in the guardrails. So anyways, that's a perfect one. But Charu, so can you please speak on behalf of Asia? Because I kind of tried my best, but I think I'm right. But you can share cancel culture in
Definitely.
Asia.
Yes. See, cancel culture is something which is really happening in recent times. And now it's a term, it's really defined, and there are articles and there are lists of people who are in that list, that they have done something or spoken something or acted some way, and a cancel culture is applied to them. naming few, like Ellen DeGeneres, like her name was there because the way she behaved in front of camera and the way she was behind the camera, that was something very different. And there were horror stories which were reported. J.K. Rowling, I mean, strange stories were coming about her being transphobic, or whatever she has written in her novels. But to my understanding, see, every individual is individual, and they are having their own opinions, and it's a whole free world where everybody has a right to say what they like, to behave what they like. But we know that the limitation has to be there. Cancel culture can be applied, that we have to make people realize that they have to be mindful about their limitation, because it affects, when they speak certain way, and especially if they are movie stars, if they are big celebrities who have huge following, the followers really are impacted, the way they are saying, the way they are doing. So I think that has to be taken care by certain group of people, and they have to be mindful about the behavior, that they cannot show something else in front of camera, and they cannot behave differently behind the camera, and what words they are using, what theories they are like propagating. All these are very sensitive issues in this chaotic world. World is already full of chaos. So we have to be really mindful that what new theories you are applying. So to my understanding, cancel culture has to be there, definitely. We have to make people realize that you have to be mindful. You cannot just take liberty of your freedom. But yeah, it shouldn't be like that. They have to be like, you have to keep them out of the society, or they cannot be part of society again. It's not the same world like before. So the balance has to be there, to my understanding. And that's the challenge, how to achieve that balance. So I think mindfulness is the only key. But be mindful what you're speaking, what you're doing.
I love that word, mindfulness. It's so important, really, because when we choose to judge somebody because they're different, that's a different story than if somebody does something wrong. Like, I was just reading about the Columbine shootings yesterday because I was just curious to see what happened there, because I have a friend that made a documentary on it. And I'm like, okay, so how do I feel about these two boys that just shot the school? Like, do we go out and just start being very wary and being suspecting of every young person that, exhibits that cry for help or loneliness or whatever? It's like, that's what perpetuates this. It's the whole cancel culture and bullying and just rejecting somebody because they are completely different. And so we have to be aware of the roots of what causes people to think differently, and to have compassion, right, Charu? Like that's
very strong word, Susan, and very well said. The media has to go on the roots and talk. I'm so sorry to interrupt like that, but yeah, that's such a powerful point, that the exact reason has to be shared across the world, that why it has happened, and people should be having that compassion for the person, and then things can be better way expressed. Otherwise, it's very easy to just spread the fire out, and then we are just pouring water everywhere, and it's not effective.
Well, nobody's
it brings me back to the 10 commandments. I mean, the very basic things of, don't lie, don't cheat, don't, I mean, some of the very basic things, be kind to people. This whole bullying thing, that happens in the schools. I mean, let's be honest, they're learning it from the parents. Kids don't come out of the womb bullying anybody. So, I think the adults have to hold ourselves accountable for what we're doing in front of our kids. And you don't think that they're not listening and they're watching. I mean, there's, I know we get too much on our plate, we get stressful, and sometimes we lash out, and it's a matter of managing stress, managing your mental health, being kind, I mean, it's almost like we should go back to the very basics. I mean, alternative facts, is that supposed to be a word in the dictionary? That shouldn't even exist. I mean, there's that kind of stuff that's, just call it a lie, but we have to get back to the real basics.
Very well said, Mary, because this bullying topic, I'm so affected. My 8-year-old girl, at such young age, she's sharing about bad experiences she's having while she's in the park or she is in the school, and strange behavior from other kids, the strange words they are using, an unexpected reaction you wouldn't be expecting from such age group. It's quite worrisome, because if from this age they're having those patterns, I'm worried what the world will be when such generation, and if it's a majority, will grow. So a real mindfulness is required by parents, especially about the behavior and what words they're using at home.
I think that's why it's really important, Alexia. You're in the world of show business, and it's so important that the content that is driven by media, by film production, by schools, anything, that we have to dive into these issues of education and inspiration, right, in a real way. And I think that's where your heart lies. So Alexia, share on that, and from the show business side, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think honestly, this is the thing that it's gotten so political lately, and somehow there is this misunderstanding that great art and great filmmaker comes from stepping on a soapbox and talking about social issues, but they are not addressed, in my opinion, more often than not. They're not addressed giving real solution on how to foster dialogue, compassion, humanity, understanding. But they're more like fight for your rights, fight for who you are, fight and stand up, and we were just talking, Charu, about, and I'd love to hear your point because you're media, and we're talking about what's happening now, the fallout of the Golden Globes. And as you know, it's a whole Hollywood Foreign Press Association, so it's journalists from all over the world, and now all of a sudden they're being ostracized. And Tom Cruise is returning the Golden Globes, he's returning them all. Yes, the NBC canceled the whole Golden Globes for next year. I mean, Netflix are going to pull off any movie that's been nominated for the Golden Globes. I mean, it's just crazy. And, and all this because they say that they're not, I think the theory is they're not giving enough work to diverse journalism, but it seems to me unrealistic what they're saying, because I know, being a member of the press, I'm not a member of the Hollywood Foreign Press, although I've been asked. I mean, say somebody, they have, they cover India, right? And the Hollywood Foreign Press member representing India is not going to be somebody who's Dutch. I mean, it's going to be somebody who is from India and is of Indian race, just like somebody from Asia. So I really do not get what is happening right now, but I think it's like an adult form of bullying, which is
Correct.
interesting. It's like going back to like when you're a kid and somebody's like putting you in a corner and like, you did this, you did that. I'm like, what did I do? Why don't they just give them an opportunity to speak up? And then all the celebrities are getting on those train where they're just all of a sudden, the very same organization that gave them Golden Globes that helped their career, now they're going and spitting on them and speaking against them. And to me, that is really sad. So Charu, because you are obviously a publisher and that's your world, journalism and editorial, how has that affected you? I mean, have you heard anything about all this and how it's affecting the media? This whole
For last 2 years, I mean, now 1 year into COVID, and I started my magazine like 3 years back. This is the third year I'm running. Somehow there was so much excitement, and there is excitement that this is giving me opportunity to make the world a global village. And I am reaching out globally to different parts of world and interviewing the entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, and publishing the interviews in my magazine, because the idea is to give them a platform where they can talk about their achievements and they can talk about their expertise and they get visibility because I do the marketing part for them. I was thinking that it's a huge power media is having. And as the internet and technology, we are blessed because it's giving us power to collect together across the globe and make this planet a much better planet. Then why media is not getting used to provide the solution and focus more on the problem and igniting the word in newspaper with just talking problems? So this is really shocking for me, because somehow, being a positive person, I'm only seeing the positive news, how people are. The COVID situation, India is facing lots of challenges. Believe me, horrific stories coming, and it's getting overwhelming for us to bear it right now because things are really unmanageable. The government is definitely trying their best to manage it. But so many beautiful stories, the way people are helping out each other and they are trying to come out this problem are coming, but the spread out is so low across my network, people are mostly talking about what's not happening. I'm saying talk about what's happening. So others get that inspiration and it spreads out like wildfire. This is just a phase. Science will definitely come up with some solution. In a year, maybe we will be over it. But if the negativity spreads and the present generation is affected, it will be huge loss for us. So instead of spreading the negativity between the countries, I think media has to be really mindful and sensitive right now what they're sharing. I'm trying my best to get as much positivity at women's lives.
Well,
I think that's brilliant, Charu, because I'm a firm believer in it too. And if I do anything on social media, I always share the positive stuff, because a lot of the media around the world is all about shock and awe. And even, Alexia, I think about some of the male producers, in the movie industry, and it's like they get creepier and scarier and more traumatic in some of the drama that they show, and it all gives ideas. I mean, after watching the Mary Tyler Moore show, I wanted to be, a businesswoman, so, the kids are watching this stuff, they're learning. And that's the sad part about it is, I think if we had more women in leadership, right, we'd be telling different stories and we'd be getting more information out there in the positive direction of how to live a really great life. I mean, hence, that's why I'm doing Femme Foundry and Hera, because I feel so strongly about that we need more women leaders all over the globe in order to uplift the lives of everybody on the planet, because that's what we do. We're nurturers, we love, we have great EQ, and we think about things of moving forward, and we're more apt to be in the moment and to listen and to create. So I'm just a little tired of everything is about money and power and how much more can I shock you? It's almost to the point that I don't even like to watch TV because it's like, I don't need that energy, in my soul or in my brain. So
it's all programming, right? That's the thing with show business now. I find that, and unfortunately, that's what capitalism does. Sex sells, drama sells. And so you kind of make everything bigger than it is because it's all about money. But I have a dream. I really do have a dream. And this has been like a few years now. And I kept telling my husband, I want to be able to amass so much money that we put it all into the new wave broadcasting channel for like conscious news, right? Where you just highlight all these people that are just everyday people doing the most beautiful things. And it is a beautiful world, but what we see is not.
Yeah.
And you know what? The worst thing, the craziest thing is the only reason why I created Steel Rose is that we got to actually teach women how to take care of each other.
Yeah.
Because if we don't
Very
take care
powerful.
if we don't take care of each other, the men don't have a chance in hell.
No,
Very true.
they don't. I mean, they wouldn't survive. I mean, I'm just
No.
being honest. If there was no women on the planet, they would not get along.
No, the men are like, can you
Or-
just give us an instruction manual? We don't know what to do with you girls. And we're like, we don't even know what we want to do with us girls. No, but seriously, can we stop hurting each other? Can we
Yeah.
just elevate one another?
Yeah. The bullying thing is, I mean, gosh, I've been through it as a kid. I mean, I quit swim team because of it. I mean, I made really serious life changes because of bullying, worked for a big corporation and the bullying was horrendous, and you just at some point you just take yourself out of the environment because the battle's too big and you're going to lose it anyway. So you move on. And I think, but somewhere along the line, I still get back to the basics. I mean, it's like and I think women could probably lead this effort around the globe of, kindness and love and, stay in the moment and honesty and, compassion and all those kinds of things that flourish people, flourish environments, right? Because business, would be so much better too if we played the long game instead of the short, greedy game that the guys are playing. So that's why I feel like if we get more women into leadership and making decisions for, humanity and the planet, we'll all be better.
Yeah.
So
I think what's
Much better.
is that we are all truth tellers, right?
yeah,
And I think that people have lately in this cancel culture, they're associating truth with only the negative. If I'm pointing out something negative, then I am stating the truth because I'm letting the truth come out. But how about letting the truth come out in the positive way? just like your
Correct.
own choosing, right? You want to do positive things in the media, Charu. Susan, you want to show how standing in your own truth as a woman can make the world a better place. Mary, with your Hera project, you're doing this exactly the same thing, creating a culture that honors the women. I, with my Heart of Show business, and my podcast, it's all about showing the heart, in artistry and in filmmakers, and how they can actually create content that is heart-centered. And if it is heart-centered, then it will be truthful, and it will be positive, and it will be inspirational. So I think this is why we're having this Global Women Talk. And I'm so
Yes.
glad that we're having this conversation, because there's so many women out there who I'm sure they were like, am I alone in here, or is there other women that think like me? And this is the beauty of it. So to the
Yeah,
listeners,
absolutely. I mean, for us to have this conversation on cancel culture at this point, it's not getting better. It has to stop at one point, because otherwise, where does it stop? Are we not going to be able to speak? Are we going to have to go to school to learn how to speak so that it's accepted by everyone? So it's going completely against the diversity, right? It's like, what is going on? But you know what the interesting thing is? I spent day in and day out teaching women to stand in your truth without having to explain, right?
Right.
And even if you're wrong, it's okay. Let's figure out why you're wrong, but speak, please, because otherwise, but now we're going, so now it's not only because men, with the whole women's rights thing and the Me Too, men don't even, in North America, maybe not in Asia, but in North America, they will not speak. God forbid they say one thing wrong. Remember when Tony Robbins said that one thing about the Me Too movement? Oh my goodness, the backlash he got, right? But actually what he was stating was the truth. It's like, there are women that suffered from the Me Too, like that suffer. So yes, the Me Too movement does have to bring awareness, right? But there are other women that are using it too.
Yeah.
Didn't have. So then who's going to speak up for, like, now it's negating the entire purpose. It's like, why don't we just work with the women that are using that as an excuse to be more man-hating? And they are taking that space away from the women that needed that space.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. Well, I think it at least it woke a lot of people up and held some people accountable. But now we're in the stage of, how do we fix it? How do we solve it? How do we move forward? And that's really where our attention should be, is that there's a lot of people who suffer. I mean, men have gone through Me Too's, a lot of children have, and it continues. So it's a matter of, how do we stop it from happening? Why is this abuse of sex or violence? It gets back to the mental health of everybody on the planet. It gets back to, why are we lying? Why are we angry? Right? There's just a lot of negativity. And I think that we have to, heal and maybe stop and really listen to people. I see a lot of everybody talking past each other. Everybody's looking for something. I want this. I want this. We all want something. And sometimes we're not really stopping to listen and really create something from that, because both sides can win. As opposed to
Very true.
this, just, I see a lot of this. But
Well,
every call I have when I meet people, there's all of, what can you do for me? And it's exhausting. And you really, you want to have good and healthy relationships around the world. And it's not always about taking. I think what people, the big thing that they miss out on is, it's all on the giving.
Giving. Yeah. Definitely well said, Mary, because that attitude is really, it's hardly around, and mostly the discussions are what's in for me. So really the roots, again, mental health awareness. I think that's a very big topic, because why this negativity is there? Why so much violence? And we are having those Me Too problems, because I think every individual is having their own personal challenges, and they are taking out in some other way. And that's why these are resulting in all these negativities around. So I think the huge awareness has to be there about mental health, so that people start getting self-awareness and they're working upon their mental health and they're coming out of their challenges. So maybe that can be a way to solve these problems in better way.
it's a huge way, actually. Education is the way. for me, I think the best approach also is the education on teaching people how to hear each other.
Yep.
Because one of the major contributors to mental health is not being seen, not being heard, and not belonging, right? And teaching people on how to listen without canceling you out before you could say one thing wrong and all of a sudden, what? I shut down. I don't even hear you anymore.
Exactly. Exactly.
It happens.
That happens.
It
Yeah,
happens. It
no,
happens with kids. My
that's
daughter just goes
depression.
away.
That's depression. Like I know so many people I've worked with where it's like their kids are going through depression and they come to me to have talk therapy or coaching. And I'm like, yeah, but you wonder why they're in depression? You're an ice queen. You are not like the moment they say, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm in darkness. And these women that have been in personal development for so long, it's like, don't think about it, just smile. And these kids are listening to that. It's like they're not being heard, they're not being acknowledged, and they are now getting suicidal because their own parents, mother, will not acknowledge that they are in pain. Because God forbid, you just have to say affirmations, ignore it.
Yeah.
Very
You
true.
see?
Very strong point.
Right. So it's just about learning how to hear and acknowledge one another. It's like, yeah, so you're sad. What's so bad about that? We're human.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I
you know
think
what?
we
This
get
gets back to the whole,
opinionated. Yeah, the opinionation, we get opinionated, and the people are affected by those opinions which are generated once they start sharing. So, as parents, as friends, as colleagues, if we start working upon that habit, like just listen without any opinion about anybody.
right.
And we have to understand as a human, and again, the role of emotional intelligence, and again, the role of empathy. All these are big words in present time, I suppose, and it has to apply in schools, in offices, in governments. And I think magic can happen if we really create awareness about all these topics, the practical usage.
This is the EQ that women are brilliant at. And because there's not enough of us around the world that is, making changes, we got an angry planet. I mean, people are talking past each other. They're all angry. And so, and hence we got cancel culture, right? So
Yeah.
it
And
gets back to the basic that, we need to, spend more time communicating and listening, and really engaging.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's
think
like
that
it's like you don't fight fear by breeding more fear, So you think you're fighting fear in that moment, but then you're breeding more fear because you're afraid to speak, you're afraid to feel, you're afraid to engage in a dialogue because you're going to be judged. So that substitute for being afraid, for being different, for being this now becomes a fear for engaging and connecting with another and sharing points of view because you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to judge me. They're going to think I'm this, they're going to think I'm that. And that's really scary because if we're here to fight fear, we're not going to do it by breeding more of it. And this is exactly what cancel culture is doing.
well, I've heard recently, because a lot of people come to me and say, well, you have a voice out there, Susan, can you please speak about and go after like the Asian hate thing, right? And I'm like, I know I'm Asian, but I said, there has to be another way to do it. I don't feel right about going out there being angry about it. I know that's not supposed to be right, but there must be a way that we can really start educating and speak with a little bit less of protection of ourselves and just go out there and just talk about how like it's just ridiculous. Like who's the one that even started that? Can we have some critical thinking, please, people, right? Nobody's critical thinking. But at the same time, though, if we don't do this, if we don't educate each other to embrace each other's differences, just to understand why, because maybe they just need to be heard so they could be able to change, right? But human nature is that if you reject somebody, they will go against you because we all need that freedom of expression as human nature. But if we don't do that with one another, and Alexia will understand this even more than anybody else, who's going to take care of our environment? Who's going to take care of the animals that they are the last on the totem pole if we are surviving?
Yeah.
Right?
The
Like,
women are. Trust me, we are.
Like, how are we supposed to take care of these poor animals out there that are just needing us to just sort ourselves out, right? And the environment and everything. It's just, oh my goodness. The whole cancel culture is all very self-absorbed. And I think we really
Yes.
need to teach each other how to belong. Can you just hear somebody? So if Mary believes that, if Mary votes for this person, it's like, so you vote for that person. I want to know why, because maybe I'm missing something or maybe you're missing something. Can we have a
Exactly.
dialogue?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything final that you need to add, Mary, before we go through our next subject? Because we could go on for days on this one.
No, I know this is a really great conversation. And it's interesting, but when I look back on everything that we've been through, from COVID, from, all the trauma and drama all over the world, I simply go back and have to say that, even the bullying and the cancel culture, everything that we run into, it just goes back to the basics of, the 10 commandments, they're just so simple. Don't lie, don't cheat, love your neighbor, treat somebody like you treat yourself. I mean, that is just so basic. And how do we get there? How do we get everybody around that? Because people came on this planet to be happy, not to be angry and to fight and to kill. I mean, what? I don't understand it all. I can't relate. And so I don't know the answer to it, but I just think somewhere along the line, and I think the women around the world, if we got more united, we could fix this. I truly believe that we could fix this. So that's just that's the last thing. And I met you wonderful ladies, right? I mean, we each had an interesting dialogue of, give and take and listening, and look at what we've created. And I hope that we are making a huge impact for women around the world that are like a mouse in this room and learning something important.
Thank you, Mary. You're right. So your solution is together we are stronger. So let's work together, which means we have to listen. Yeah, absolutely. Alexia?
I would say my solution would be to substitute the word canceling with promoting. Instead of canceling, racism, let's promote inclusion. Instead of canceling, men from the race, let's promote them having a better understanding of what it's like to be a woman. So instead of canceling an artist or somebody or somebody who has a diversity in politics, let's promote this beautiful country where all kinds of viewpoints can coexist. And I think, just like what Mary said, and also Charu talked about empathy and compassion, and Mary said, let's listen to one another, let's have a dialogue, let's understand. And you, Susan, said, let's stand into our own truth and be fierce in it, but at the same time respect also another person's opinion, because we might learn something from them. So I would say, not in a slimy sales way of promoting. Let's promote the values that we want to embody and we want to see more of in this world, instead of canceling the ones that we don't, because the more we try to cancel, and the more they're going to breed, and the more they're going to fester and bug and judge and create this division that we do not want. And that's my solution, sort of.
I love it. So wrap it up in a bow for Alexia is elevate one another by really listening to each other. Really, it is. It's promoting each other. Yeah, you're right. But it needs education, right? And that's what it is. So how about you, Charu?
Again, this focus on the solution. I will really support. There has to be focus on the solution. For any problem, there's a solution. If, again, the power of media, I will say, if the media gets mindful about this power and then starts sharing about the solution part and not spreading the negativity of what has happened wrong, I think we can really come up with a much better planet and much better solution. Canceling any culture, I don't think so that's the solution, because we all are connected as human. Everybody's having their own belief. World is a beautiful place. We are 7 billion people living together on this beautiful planet, and every individual is an individual. And we are connected with same bond. So we have to focus on those values which are there common in every human being. So why don't we focus that solution can be there? The beautiful expression, have listening skills, have patience to understand what's the opinion of the other person and communicate in a better way instead of fighting. So all these things can really impact toward a lot.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, you're right. I'll finish off with a very powerful conversation I had a few months ago with a lawyer in the US.
Mhm.
And she has an interesting job. She defends sex offenders.
Gosh, wow.
And so I have a big thing on that whole, because I am an advocate against sex trafficking. So I'm like, this is curious. I need to know more, right? And she's a woman, right? And so I went into a 1-hour conversation. It was the most powerful educational conversation for me, because I really needed to understand. I asked her, I said, so how do you do it? Like, I want to understand what's in your mind when, as she handles the toughest cases where no other lawyer can take them on because they're obviously guilty. And she gave me an example of a man she was working with in his mid-30s, where he was put in jail. Well, he was being prosecuted because he had sex with his 13-year-old daughter. But she was making moves on him, and she looked like she was 21. And so over time, it kept happening that he couldn't, like, after a while, it breaks you down. And so, yes, he's wrong. But at what point does somebody have the chance to learn and to work through those issues? So what, we're going to put him in jail. He's going to come back out of the system, be canceled out, right? And then he's just going to re-injure again. Like, and I really went through a whole thing about, thank you for sharing that, because I really don't know how to even work with that. But now I have a different education, and then I could reevaluate how I see it. But geez, so that is what I'm going to leave it with, is that educate yourself. And there's another story with every story you see.
Great.
Right? And just go out there and listen, because that is the reason why a big percentage of mental health issues are out there now, because no one feels worthy to speak anymore.
Yes, that's
No
so
one knows how to
sad.
hear.
That's really
because
so.
It is sad. And
Conversations are missing. Conversations are really missing, whether it's office or friends. This COVID has really, definitely the challenges are there, but we have to do something for this, definitely.
yeah. So, you know what, from all angles, from the women connecting with each other angles, we're going to do it, because together we are stronger. So look for togetherness rather than opposition. We're not here on this earth to try to fix everybody. Let's fix ourselves first. We have a lot of issues ourselves. So
Very true. I like that line. Let's fix ourselves first.
yeah, let's fix ourselves first.
Prioritize, yes.
Right. So, but thank you, ladies. And Mary, Alexia, Charu, this has been a great conversation. Cancel culture. So the final conclusion is work with each other, not try to change each other.
Exactly.
Because people can change. Yeah, people can change, but not with force.
Exactly. Embrace our DNA. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.